What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. We got a big week going on this week. A lot of things are going to shift in some pretty important ways. So let's think into that a little bit. So the first thing that I would notice here is that Saturn is going to be moving out of Aries and back into Pisces for a little bit. So if you have Saturn in Pisces, you're back in your Saturn return. Sorry, boo-boo. You're going to be there again for a little while until February next year. But for almost all other cases, this is a pretty good look. Saturn doesn't do very well in Aries, has a hard time there. And in Pisces is making a trine to Jupiter and is ruled by Jupiter at the same time. So, and Jupiter is in Cancer, looking great, looking very capable of doing the Jupiter things, of taking care of Jupiter's responsibilities. And since Saturn is in Jupiter's house, in Jupiter's home in Pisces, then Saturn is Jupiter's responsibility now. And this looks way better than when Saturn was Mars's responsibility and Mars is in Libra, looking uncomfortable. So this looks like a situation where the Saturn things are gonna be like long-term consequences and managing pieces of time that are longer in some kind of way. This kind of stuff, like discipline and monotony and getting in there and doing the hard thing and all that sort of stuff. All the Saturn things, those look very much more capable than they have been for the last few months here. So I personally am pretty excited to see that shift taking place here. Virgo and Pisces is happening this week. We can also see that Mercury is moving out of Leo and into Virgo. So that's opposite to Pisces. And so there's a lot going on this axis here. Mercury rules Virgo is also exalted there in Virgo. Virgo is a place where Mercury can do the Mercury things really solidly. The Mercury things being communication, the transportation, Mercury is the one, the way that I like to think about it is Mercury is the first one that's out from the sun, right? So if we use a heliocentric model, then we'll put the sun in the center, and then immediately out from that is Mercury. So if we think about the sun as being the one who shines the light, and so the sun is associated with eyes and with visibility and this kind of thing, right? And so the sort of internal thoughts that you can communicate with eye contact, that is the kind of sort of central piece there with the sun. And then one out from that is Mercury. So it's Mercury's job to translate that raw selfness that you can communicate with eye contact, but that is otherwise pretty abstract. And turn that into something that is intelligible to the other, right? So it's Mercury's, that's where we get the translator component here. And transportation and all that sort of stuff sort of shows up with this Mercury thing. Mercury is very good in Virgo, very good at taking things and categorizing them, making them intelligible and practically useful in some kind of way. Love to see intelligibly useful information taking place here. Love to see that. Also, Mercury is moving quick at this point. So we love to see a fast Mercury that speaks to an ability to turn ideas into words and then into reality in a pretty clear-cut kind of way. We love to see this kind of thing. There's been a lot of confusion and difficulty this year, and so that kind of thing looks like it's in really good position. Also, Mercury moving into Virgo makes this square to Uranus and Gemini and is really good for ideas, really good for new ideas and for synthesizing information in a way that might have a bit of an aha moment, a bit of a eureka sort of situation. Love to see that kind of thing. Speaking of which, if you would like to have a bit of a eureka moment for yourself, you want to learn some new things like maybe astrology, for example, then you can go to zambonifunk.com and find Astrology from the Ground Up. Is a course I did on how to do astrology. If you don't feel like doing all that and you just want me to do the reading for you, I would love to do that as well. You can find that at zambonifunk.com. There's a 10-minute transit touch point, which is super affordable and really it's a nice way for us to connect without without the whole investment that a 60-minute reading is. So all of that's available at zambonifunk.com. Thank you so much for checking that out. Thanks for sending me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. If you're not ready to do all that, but you've just been enjoying this content for so long, thank you for doing that. So Mercury in Virgo looks real cute. Love to see it. Now, what's interesting here also about the Virgo Pisces axis is that that's where the sun is, and that is also where the nodes are. So we're going to see a full moon next weekend. I think it's on Sunday next weekend, and that is going to be a full moon lunar eclipse. So we are into eclipse season. So remember when I said at the beginning of the video that things are shifting in a major way. I think of eclipses as being major, sort of, you know, they cause shifts, or they sort of speak to major shifts. Things, I think of them as catalysts. They get something moving in some kind of major way here. And so it is eclipse time, and we're going to start to see some of the eclipsey stuff wants to move. You know, eclipses are shadow moments, right? So there's something that is uncertain, that is not immediately clear or not immediately well understood. And, you know, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is going to be on the north node, that's going to want to do more of something. It's going to be trying to like get into whatever's going on in Pisces in a big way. So again, if you're having your Saturn return in Pisces right now, then this is going to really lean on that a little bit. It's going to be like, okay, so what's up with Saturn? How am I creating discipline and boundaries for myself? How am I making sure to, we've got this opposition to Mercury in Virgo as well. How am I making sure to communicate my boundaries such that we can work together more appropriately? Or, you know, if we're talking about communication is not just in the one direction. How am I making sure as to listen to others so that their boundaries are well communicated, and so that I can understand where is appropriate for me to get in, where I fit in? You know what I mean? So like a lot of that sort of stuff looks like it wants to take place here, and it's not necessarily going to be the same moves as had been previously effective for you. So this is, you know, it's not just eclipse season. It's not just major planetary shifts moving into different signs and this kind of thing. It's also that the signs we're moving into is Virgo and Pisces. These are mutable signs. They're known for their changeability, for their adaptability. What they do is they want to move around and shape themselves into whatever works best in this moment. So this is a moment for really getting into that kind of flexibility. This is also interesting because we can notice that. So Mars has been in Libra for a little while, and Libra is not Mars's favorite place to be. It's a place where Libra tends to want to move toward like elegance and grace and this kind of thing, and Mars would prefer to just like punch him in the fucking nose and be done with it. You know what I mean? But in Libra, that's not an option as much, right? So I've been talking about diplomacy and negotiations and that kind of thing, right? It's annoying for Mars to be in that spot sometimes, but like Mars can sometimes benefit from thinking through things a little bit more thoroughly. Mars is under a square from Jupiter in Cancer. This is a thorn in the side of Jupiter in Cancer. And actually, as Saturn moves into Pisces, then that's one fewer thorns for Jupiter to have to worry about. Love to see that. And then in a couple of weeks, Mars is going to move into Scorpio. That's going to put both malefics into trine aspects with Jupiter. I am very much looking forward to that. That looks like fun to me. But in the meantime, we do have this square between Mars in Libra and Jupiter in Cancer happening. That goes exact this week. And that looks like the kind of thing that is good for Mars and difficult for Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is a little bit tied up in the negotiation, in the diplomacy, in the sense of how can we make the space for us to come together in some kind, like how can we clear the table such that people can sit at it and talk together? That kind of thing looks like it wants to take place here. So we're in the midst of big shifts which feel uncertain and which feel shadowy and not clear entirely, this is a really good time to sit down with even those who feel a little bit aggressive to you and see what we can do about